clarity on these things. But the first scrimmage is definitely important to at least start answering some of these questions.
Do you have the Gamecock Central drone ready to go so we can watch Saturday?
Don't tell anybody. We have a fleet because some of them will get shot down, so we'll send them back.
I was going to say Beamer's going to be out there shooting drones down on Saturday.
We've got one that can't be seen.
It's a stealth.
You had an invisible drone.
Stealth drone.
That would be nice.
Wouldn't that be awesome? We get the all 11 or the all 22.
Yeah,
be fantastic.
We won't say anything. We just need to watch.
How'd y'all figure out the depth chart so fast?
Well, no, that's a rookie move, Tyler. You don't publish the depth chart after you just kind of have it in the back of your mind.
I named my drone Sources. According to sources.
Yes.
Well, you're not wrong.
Oh, man. You know what I do? I do miss. We got to watch scrimmages under Spurrier. Now, that practice slowly did go away, I think, but watching scrimmages is a different animal than these days.
It sounds like Spurrier just left the door open. It's like, well, if y'all want to come, go ahead and come.
He had one where towards the end, he was like, how did he do it? He's basically like, y'all can come watch, but you can't report live from it.
Okay.
And I think it was supposed to be like, all right, whatever you can remember.
Like you couldn't live tweet what was happening.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he didn't want you doing play-by-play.
Okay.
So you had to walk the line. And I remember it being very ambiguous of like, what can you say? What can't you say?
Sure.
You wanted to give some good information, but you didn't want to get shut down for next time either. And I think it was no video or I think they would let the TV guys do video of warm-ups, and then they'd be like, all right.
Shut it off.
No more video.
We got the stat report at the end. Remember the old stat report?
Andrew Clifford, 2 for 4.
17 yards.
Fink used to sit there
and compile stats in a scrimmage.
Yes. Yeah. And then we would get the stat report.
Different day.
That was not the year 2024. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
But yeah, despite the fact that we're not going to be able to see it, I'm sure we will hear some things. We will not be able to have our drone out there. That we know of. Well, that we know of. Well, I'm just saying that as cover.
Stealth drone.
I'm saying that as cover, of course, so nobody.
Well, here's what we need. You guys need to go full Connor Stallions, get a disguise, get a bench pass, and just work your way on the sidelines. It's like, hey, who's that guy? Oh, he's the backup assistant tight ends coach.
I think we're past the point of not being recognized, though, at the scrimmage.
A good disguise.
Hey, a hat, sunglasses, and like a beard. We give Chris a beard, never going to recognize him.
Yeah, I just shaved it off yesterday. Maybe that'll confuse people. I get some lifts in my shoes, so I'm a little taller.
That's right. Affect the height. You know what I mean? Maybe
change the eye level.
Maybe we get you like some padding so you're a little bit like wider. You know what I mean? Like just throw the whole body shape off.
The part I always like from the scrimmage, inevitably we hear about scoring plays, right? Like that's the thing. Normally you hear a few pieces of information after a scrimmage, and it's like, hey, because we heard this back in the spring, I remember, so I'll use it as an example. Jared Brown had a really nice touchdown, right? Or, Dylan Stewart had several plays that if it was a game would have been a sack, And we heard, so what we'll really be looking for, I think, this preseason is in these scrimmages this Saturday, next Saturday, who's consistent in you hearing about them? If we walk away from those two scrimmages and we have several people tell us, Gage Larvin looked really good. He had a bunch of catches. He got open. Hey, Dylan Stewart really looked good. Hey, Josiah Thompson was working with the ones the majority of the time in the scrimmage. Little things like that, I think, will help tell the story and kind of shape the narrative going into game one.
In that same vein, you talked about this yesterday and you wrote about it on Gamecock Central. There's a lot of guys that we're just not talking about quite as much this offseason. And yes, we've talked about a lot of these groups and these rooms and positions, just kind of in a general sense, but there's names that we don't bring up quite as much. And one of those at the top of your list on Gamecock Central, and somebody that we saw back in the spring, was Monkel Goodwine. And he's somebody that garnered a lot of attention coming in here from Alabama, 4-star guy that obviously generates a lot of excitement. And what we saw out of him in the spring game did show you that, hey, this guy has something. Now, yes, he doesn't have many stats from his time at Alabama to really fall back on, but he's somebody that, in addition to all the guys you have returning, in addition to DeAndre Jules in the defensive line room, could seriously make an impact this season.
I think it is the most fascinating thing about preseason is who are the guys you start to hear enough about that you readjust your expectations. And so Goodwine, I mean, I think he did start to kind of flash a little bit in the spring game, and you're going, am I off in thinking this guy was more brought in almost for next season? Because my thought on him was, okay, let's – now, the funny thing is, fans got very excited about this pickup because he was from Alabama. He was a former – was he top 100?
He was top 100.
Yeah, top 100 guy. Fans like, oh, shoot, D lineman from Alabama. And then I think we kind of tried to dial those expectations back a little bit. Like, look, Carolina returns most of their interior D line. They brought in DeAndre Jules, who could be an NFL guy as well. I looked at this year for Goodwine like, all right, can he just be in the mix a little bit, and then it gets wide open next season, and maybe he's a starter next season. Can he springboard into next season? But sometimes guys just are too good and start to push and say, look, I need to be on the field. And so I do wonder, like, are we at the point of adjusting our expectations for Goodwine a little bit like with Vandrevius Jacobs at wide receiver, where maybe it was a similar, do we expect him to make a huge impact this year? Maybe not off the bat, but the more we hear, the more you're kind of saying maybe so.
I think there was an element of not really knowing what you're getting, like to use the flip side of it with Rocket Sanders. Like, you don't have to imagine it. You just, okay, this guy literally rushed for 1,400 yards, not in a video game, not in high school. Like, he did it on a field. And so the question there is just, translating over to this offense, and is he healthy, and those things, right? That I think we're getting closer to getting answered. Things are going well there. With Goodwine, you kind of wondered, right? Your question, you go, okay, this big kid, Bama signed him, top 100 kid. But you look back in his, 3 years at Bama, he played in 5 games. So why is that? Like, naturally, as a coach, that's going to be your question. And you can say, well, it's Bama. They're typically pretty loaded just across the board. But still, why did he not play? My understanding from the story that I got is that, he had some people at Alabama who coached him and were very familiar with him vouch for him. Like, this kid's really, really good. But in that crazy portal window in December, it was a very quick turnaround. And that's why this happened so quickly. You hear Goodwine goes in the portal, and then you kind of, there's not much time there, and then boom, he's on campus, and boom, he's committed, And so it's a really, really quick turnaround. You have to gather that information. But I think, as you said, Wes, that kind of, even for South Carolina's coaches, like they had some people vouch for him, but it's not like they had tons of game tape at Alabama. You didn't have the equivalent of 1,400 rushing yards to go back and look and say, oh, okay. You're kind of going off of traits and what you've heard. But then he gets to campus in spring and really impressed the staff with what he was able to do. And I think, from what I've gathered, that did exactly as you said, Wes, that kind of reoriented the expectations. So now you look at it, this defensive tackle room has a bunch of guys that have played ball. They have the appearance of having a legitimate, 2-deep plus. But now I think you have to put Goodwine right in that mix as well.
I mean, I think when you look at transfers, and the more we've seen, the more we've learned, the more I lean towards taking the guys who have been ultra productive at a quote unquote smaller school. And this is obviously not that. And so I think you have to ask yourself, why was that guy not playing? And a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times you have to deal in percentages if you're in the evaluation and roster building business. a lot of times it's, well, they just weren't good enough. Well, at Alabama, especially on defense, how many times have we seen guys who didn't transfer out from Alabama, but were there, didn't do a ton for their first 2, sometimes 3 seasons, and then wait their turn, develop physically, and emerge in our top 3-round draft picks. Like, I feel like more than any other program in the entire country, we saw that under Nick Saban. Guys that just, they're buried behind other 4 and 5 stars. It doesn't mean they're not good. It just means there's an older guy who's just as talented ahead of them. And then we realize, hey, they're going to play in the NFL one day too. So I don't know if that's necessarily the case with Goodwin, but I do think there is a case to be made that he could have just been buried behind some absolute studs at Bama. Then he comes to South Carolina, says, oh, wow, I've got a chance to go play. He sat right there with us, and very impressive kid, and talked about how welcoming the other guys have been to him too. And, I think for South Carolina, you want to talk about, and he's not an edge guy, but Sterling Lucas, who is, the edges, outside linebackers coach, Sterling talked about wanting for them up front to be like basically a hockey line change where you just keep rolling guys in and out and keeping them fresh. And this would be, if you're South Carolina, yet another guy, if this kind of does turn out this way, that Goodwin's ready to make an impact, yet another guy who you could feel really good about rolling out there. You truly never can have enough defensive linemen. Like that, I feel like that's no matter how deep you think you are, you could always use another one. So if Goodwin is another one for them, then that has to be considered a big positive for camp so far.
Absolutely. By the way, coming up at 11:30, going to be talking to former Gamecock Patrick DeMarco a little bit about his thoughts on what's going on with the camp, as well as some new projects that he's working on with our friends over at Gamecock Plus. He was a part of that 2010 game where South Carolina took down Alabama, #1 team in the nation at Williams-Brice Stadium. That's one of the options on the greatest Gamecock moment since the year 2000 on our Twitter account at 1075 The Game, running all week long as we crown the overall best Gamecock moment since the year 2000. Brought to you by our friends at Columbia Craft, 520 Green Street down in the Vista. Come back, more Under the Radar, guys, as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls on your Thursday here on The Game.
All right, everyone, tell you about our friends over at Firehouse Subs. You can use the Rapid Rescue to go to avoid the wait and order online. It's 11:15 a.m. here on The Game, and I'm getting pretty hungry. And I'm on firehousesubs.com right now checking out the meatball sub. I think that's the hero right there. Definitely the Italian up front. You've also got the Powerade Victory Bundle, which is only available at Firehouse Subs. That's a winning combination of strawberry, lemon, and peach Powerade flavors. And, of course, that pairs perfectly with your favorite Firehouse sub. Go check that out right now, firehousesubs.com or the Firehouse Subs app. That's my favorite way to be able to earn yourself some rewards toward future purchases. Again, firehousesubs.com or the Firehouse Subs app.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark along with you here on your Thursday on the Game. Again, going to be talking to former Gamecock Patrick DeMarco coming up in just a few minutes. But we'll continue on our conversation about under the radar guys. But before we do, another chance for you to win some tickets right now to see Train and REO Speedwagon coming up Saturday at PNC Pavilion in Charlotte. 6:25 start time. Again, Train and REO Speedwagon. Be caller number 4 right now at 803-404-6100. Captain Dave standing by to take your call. So back in the conversation about under the radar guys. And again, Chris has a full write-up of this on Gamecock Central, but this is somebody that's on your list that I brought up with Jack Veltri when he was in here with me earlier. We've talked so much about the running back room, and obviously plenty about Rocket Sanders. We know what Oscar Attaway is expected to be. A lot of intrigue with Warren Howell. But DJ Braswell's really just kind of not been discussed a whole lot. And he's a guy that, was in a less than advantageous situation last year with the running back room being what it was. The offensive line wasn't being great. Had to burn his red shirt by playing in an extra game last year. But, I don't think we got a fair shake of what he's capable of last season, and he certainly could be a factor for being one of the key guys in this room this year.
He could. He's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle a little bit, which, I think there's several players that fall into that category for whatever reason or for a variety of reasons. But, you think about Braswell, former 4-star guy out of high school, was just a freshman last season, and didn't play a lot, even with some of the personnel issues at running back. But I remember a few things. Number one was before the season, Dow Loggins, the Gamecocks offensive coordinator, remember the comment he made that said, hey, to be the type of offense we want to be, we need DJ Braswell to have a big camp. Now, I think, a lot of things ended up happening throughout the course of the season, and we don't need to relitigate that. But he didn't end up playing, even in the structure of not having a great running back room by any means. He still didn't play a lot. And he was a first-year player. But he also showed us a couple flashes. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is the Kentucky game. Remember, after that game, Spencer Rattler said, hey, DJ Braswell, or was it Beamer? Maybe both said, hey, he won the game for us with that block because he made a critical block on a pressure that Kentucky sent. Big-time recognition, big-time block. Gave Spencer enough time to throw a touchdown pass to Xavier Legette. It was a huge play. And then you saw some glimpses of the speed against Vanderbilt when he caught I think it was a 30-yard little pass, a little leak-out pass, caught it, just kind of outran everybody until somebody had an angle there about 20 yards ahead of him, it seemed like. And then, as you said yesterday, Wes, some intrigue around maybe the possibility of him returning some kicks and carving out a role there, too.
Yeah, and to be clear, that's a completely made-up thing in my head.
But he was among the 39 people.
38.
38, sorry.
That were catching kickoffs or punts at practice. Don't remember which day we were out there, but they were out there.
Tuesday?
Sunday.
One of those days.
Sunday.
Yeah, sure.
Sunday, Tyler.
Okay. Take your word for it.
Tyler, you could have joined us, by the way. You are invited. You didn't have a radio show on Sunday.
I didn't know I was invited.
Are you a part of the media?
I am a part of the media.
See,
come on out there.
You could have been there. You could have.
Okay.
Have you watched the practice yet?
I have not watched the practice.
You could have been there. Not on a radio day.
Okay. I'll try and make it out of the next one.
This Sunday.
Okay.
So
what I can do.
You'll be on the radio Friday.
Yes.
But there is a Sunday one.
Okay.
And so DJ Braswell is kickoff return. If that happens, I'm going to be a smiling man.
Well, you already had. We have partially made your dream come true because it was so funny. Honestly, like Wes was obsessed with the idea of just the possibility that Nick Harbor may just catch one kick in practice on kickoff return.
Right.
And Beamer, remember? Beamer was like, I mean, yeah, that's an interesting idea. And he's doing it. He's out there. He's one of the 38.
You're having influence over the coach now, Wes.
Clearly.
But no, that would Braswell would make a lot of sense. I made my case yesterday. I won't make my case again. But
sure.
I think if you have guys that can be kickoff returners or punt returners that potentially are just as good as a potential starter who is in that role, I like the idea, especially one in the portal era. Two, we're trying to keep everybody healthy. I like the idea of giving somebody else a role who maybe does not have a role as like top 1 or 2 on the depth chart at their position.
Speaking of guys in the backfield, going to be talking to our guy Patrick DeMarco coming up next. Get his thoughts on what's happening with fall camp, as well as some cool things that he's working on as well. That's coming up next. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Thursday here on the game.
All right, stop what you're doing unless you're driving. If you're driving, just wait and do it when you're pulled over. Be safe out there. Go to our friends over at Integrated Media Columbia. Go to their Instagram and their Facebook accounts and check out some examples of some of the past work that they've done at people's homes around the Midlands. They've been out to my home. They've been out to West Mitchell's home. They can come out to your home, too, and make sure that you have the very best audio-visual setup. They can do so many different things for you, whether it's just something as simple as mounting a TV. Saw yesterday, again, they mounted a TV on a fireplace. It looked awesome. They can help you source the right equipment, the best equipment. You don't have to go to the big box stores. They can do that. They can make sure that your internet signal is strong throughout your home or business, or they can outfit you with a complete smart home system. Integrated Media Columbia on Instagram and Facebook, or give them a call, 803-948-8327.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark along with you on this Thursday. Been talking plenty about fall camp as we get closer and closer to the start of the season. Give us some perspective on what it's like to be a player within fall camp. Our guy Patrick DeMarco, a former Gamecock himself, obviously several years in the NFL as well. As you were getting set for a season, what were summer camps like fall camps like from your perspective as you got closer and closer to kickoff?
Hot. It's obviously playing here in the Southeast, South Carolina, Atlanta, growing up in Florida. I mean, just this time of year always gets you excited, but it is definitely hot out there, and just kind of digging in all the, spring camp, winter workouts, summer workouts, like finally the chance to put the pads on and hit somebody, knowing season's right around the corner. So it's definitely an exciting time, but I mean, especially here in Columbia, man, those camp practices were hot.
Hey, Pat, it's Wes. Appreciate you doing this, man. Tell us everything we need to know about this podcast. When can we hear the first episode? How did it come about? And, what do you think you and Steven's approach will be in terms of maybe giving the fans a behind-the-scene look back at y'all's time at Carolina?
Yeah, so we've recorded 2 episodes already. We have a couple really cool guests on those episodes and have bunch more lined up, but first episode's going to be aired next Wednesday on the 14th, which we're really excited about, and kind of how it came to fruition. I mean, I just realized that a lot of other schools, competitors of Carolina and the FCC and other conferences, actually had a former player involved in media content, whether that be a podcast, YouTube, streaming, but also helping out with NIL in that sense. And I just, we had no real presence of that, and started juggling around the idea of it, had some conversations with some people, actually relied on one of our mutual friends, Jamie Bradford, a lot about it. And he kind of helped spearhead this, and I reached out to Steven just knowing, hearing him on podcasts, it's just always extremely entertaining, as you guys would imagine. So I reached out to Steven and asked if he would be interested in doing something like this. And he was first thing he said is, I've been thinking about this for a long time too. I just didn't know where to start and who to do this with. And holy smokes, match made in heaven. I mean, I would consider myself the brains and Steve the beauty, the entertainer. So blend us together. And, we have a pretty cool team. And I mean, during our time here from 2007 to 2011, we had some really cool experiences, won some really big games. Steven had some really cool experiences as well, maybe not off the field, on the field and off the field, that we'll dive into and talk a little bit about. One of our guests on the first 2 episodes has a inside sneak peek on a lot of that stuff. But we just, we want to highlight former players, guys that we played with, guys that played before us, guys that played after us, give them a platform to share their story, why they chose Carolina, some of their fondest memories here, what they're doing now, let them promote some of their own businesses, let some of the Gamecock fans know there's guys that played here that are in politics. There's guys that are in the wealth management world. There's guys that are in law enforcement. We have a lot of guys that we played with that are doing a lot of really cool things around the state that I think need to be highlighted, but also in a sense, I mean, kind of mirroring that, but let's highlight some of our current players as well. We're going to have some current player guests, so let them tell us similar stuff, why they chose Carolina, what they like doing in their off time. If they could have their one NIL deal, what would it be? Let them pitch, let them learn, but also get them out there and network and let fans hear what their interests are. Let's try to get some of these guys jobs post football and stuff. Hopefully this can spearhead that kind of stuff.
Now, you guys put out a neat little promotional video for this when the podcast is dropping. How would you rate your acting performance in that video with Steven?
Subpar, but I mean, that should be as expected. My wife was, when I showed it to her for the first time, she's like, this is embarrassing. And I'm like, I'm aware. I don't think the whole idea of this is for people to try to win us we're not trying to win a Grammy here. We're trying to like spark some attention, bring awareness to this, and hopefully get people excited. And I mean, from everything we've seen on social media and the phone calls and all the people that have reached out to us about wanting to be on the show, it worked. So my acting might have stunk, and I know it did, but it was well executed.
Yeah, and Pat, we won't give it away, but I've heard some rumors about maybe some of the initial guests. I think fans are definitely going to be pumped to not just hear from you and Steven, but to hear from these guests as well. So I think that's going to be fun, man. While we got you, let's talk a little bit about this current roster. How excited are you as a former fullback / tight end about the possibility of an offense that could have Rocket Sanders in the backfield alongside a guy like LaNorris Sellers who provides that run threat, and maybe go 2 tight ends and run some Sean Elliott run scheme? What do you think about just the potential of what this offense could be this season, kind of from your perspective, man?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a little bit different of a roster dynamic, not having Spencer Rattler here and a guy that can sling the football at the best of them. But also not taking away from anything that LaNorris can do, because he showed really good playmaking ability in his small sample size last year. So a lot to be excited about. But also, the Joker's 6'5" or 6'6", 240, 250 pounds, and runs like a deer. So just bringing a different dynamic to the football game. I mean, you look at the NFL and look at Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, the different things that you can do running the quarterback and extending plays, like that is a huge threat that LaNorris is going to bring. I mean, and just like I think everybody understands that there's going to be young quarterback woes throughout the course of the season, but you can eliminate that stuff a lot by having Rocket Sanders in the backfield and being able to hand the ball off to him 20, 25 times a game and average 4 or 5 yards a carry, turn the chains over, get an extra safety in the box. That'll really open things up for LaNorris, not to mention like his running ability. You have to have an extra hat. You have to account for the quarterback run game. So there's going to be people down there. So there are going to be big plays available in the pass game as well. And, I mean, Coach Loggins, I've known him for 5 or 6 years now from his time in the NFL and his relationship with Connor. I mean, he's really good at developing the quarterback position. I mean, we see what he did with Spencer last year. So, I mean, everything I see, LaNorris is going to have an awesome year. Coach Elliott being back here, bringing the run game. I mean, what they did at Georgia State, they were one of the most efficient run teams in the country every single year that he was there. He understands how to run the ball. He likes having tight ends on the field and an occasional H-back fullback. So, I think, I mean, we're going to see a lot different of an offense with LaNorris Sellers, and you have to adjust the game to what your talent pool can do. And this roster's designed to be explosive in many facets: running the ball, passing the ball, quarterback run game. So I think it's going to be really exciting. I mean, we're 3 weeks away, and I'm fired up.
Pat, Chris Clark here. Thanks for taking time to do this. Wanted to ask you a question that kind of goes off what you were just talking about with the run game, the personnel, the scheme. You know, one of the areas that has to improve from last season is obviously the offensive line. So, you know, even thinking back to your time at Carolina, you guys had some really good, you know, future NFL offensive linemen on that roster. But you had mobile quarterbacks. You had yourself in the backfield helping block. You had, Marcus Lattimore.
Wait. Are you considering Steven mobile?
You know, he's got a little bit. We were talking about the Florida game the other day. He was esque.
Mobile-esque.
Yeah. Maybe no Connor.
Yeah,
do you give him a hard time about not being mobile?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think my 40 time was faster than him. I wouldn't say I was a running fullback. So I was just giving him a hard time. But
how much does that work? Help the offensive line as far as just having really good personnel in the backfield and a mobile quarterback. If the quarterback is mobile,
Steven was listed as a dual threat on Rivals, by the way, back in the day.
Yeah. Whatever. But no, it definitely. You have to have another hat in the box, and that's the big piece to it. Is if you do have a mobile quarterback, you have to account for him. And then, I mean, just in today's offense with all the shifts and motions and jet sweeps and all these different things, like you're just adding gaps on the backside. You send a tight end from the strong side, go back to the backside, cutting off the backside defensive end, you're adding 2 gaps. Gap inside of him, gap outside of him. So all these different things is like the moving parts really confuse the defense. And I mean, in the run game, like being a fullback and diving into that piece for as long as I did, I mean, the run game is just getting one guy out of gap. And if you got one guy out of gap, you have a real chance to get one-on-one with the corner or safety. And then, I mean, that's on the running back. Like, that's our big thing when we were in Atlanta and Buffalo is like, hey, we can block all but running back. You got that corner, and we're paying you a decent amount of money to make him miss. So he's on you. So I think there's going to be a lot more opportunities with that with the mobile quarterback. And, I mean, Rocket back there. And not to mention, you're not having to block the backside defensive end. If you're running zone read, like usually the premier pass rusher is kind of a guy that you circle on the scattering report standpoint of like, you know, when I was in Atlanta, we're playing the Carolina Panthers, like Julius Peppers was circled. Like, this guy's a game changer. We have to get 4 hands on him in the run game. And it's pretty nice if you read him on the backside and don't have to block him, and he's basically taking himself out of a play. So a lot of cool things. I mean, Lonnie Teasley I learned a bunch from him when I was there for 2 years. Sean Elliott, obviously, has been a mentor of mine and helped me out a bunch when I was playing here and then even afterwards. So, I mean, those two working together, it should be a really cool thing, and the run game should really explode for us this year.
Again, talking to Patrick DeMarco, former Gamecock and NFL vet. Last one for you here. Got right at about 2 minutes. Obviously, last year was 5-7, and Beamer and company preached how, you know, that's not acceptable, and they, you know, want to get back into the winning ways and at least find their way back to a bowl game this season. You were on some South Carolina teams that didn't have records that you guys are probably the most thrilled about. What's the mindset and the attitude in the locker room going into a season coming off a year that wasn't what you wanted it to be?
Oh, man, that was, like, I think the big elevation for us and the motivation for us during my time here. I mean, my freshman year, we were 6-1, number 5 or 6 in the country. We lost our last 5. And I remember that entire offseason of, I mean, I was just finished my freshman year, and I played a little bit, but not a crazy amount. But I saw leaders step up, take the reins, saw the leaders grab the younger guys that they knew were going to be leaders down the road and kind of pass the torch on to them. So, I mean, off season sucks when you lose 5 in a row or when you go 5-7. Like, it's not fun. And it's not intended to be fun. I mean, there's a standard that was set, you know, before I got here, during my time here, after my time here, that needs to be upheld. And, I mean, Coach Beamer was here during those years. He understands it. That's why he's so fired up and ready to get this thing turned around too. So I think with the work they've put in, from everything I've heard and seen, and the leaders they have in place, and the Luke Doty's, the Boogie Huntleys, the Tonka Hemingways, the Rocket Sanders, the Josh Simons, the Debo Williams, the Nick, the DQs, like, there's a lot of pieces in place there. And there's been a lot of football play that these guys are going to step up and, you know, really challenge the younger guys and really elevate the team in total.
Absolutely. We'll check in with you plenty as the season rolls along. Appreciate your time, Pat.
Yes, thank y'all.
Absolutely. We'll come back, wrap up today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game.
All right, our friends over at Krantz Cooling and Heating can help you out with your home or your business's HVAC system. Even though we've been getting a lot of rain lately, it is still hot. It is the famously hot Columbia, after all. So AC repair, AC installation, when it does get warm and cold and in the winter, they can help you with your heating repair and installation as well. Join the Krantz Club to get preventative maintenance. Give them a call and ask them about that at 803-672-3224. They can also help you with your home's indoor air quality, commercial HVAC, and ductless AC. That's what they've done at my home, in my garage. They put in a mini split for me. Super efficient, super quiet, and can cool down those spaces that maybe have a little bit of extra heat in there for you. KrantzCooling.com. Since 1983, they've been serving the Midlands as a family-owned HVAC business. 803-672-3224.
Welcome back in Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark along with you here wrapping up today's edition of the show. I don't know if there's a I'm him moment that gets an award at the Olympics, but I think Quincy Hall yesterday in the 400 meters would win that by a landslide with what he did in the last 100 meters to win the gold medal yesterday.
Yeah, that was impressive. Very impressive. Former Gamecock doing it on the biggest stage that exists. And apparently the 400 is very painful.
It looks painful.
Like it is, I guess, at the point where you're not in a sprint, but you almost have to be in a sprint to kind of keep up. So I think it's impossible to run at full speed the entire way. Again, I'm speaking as someone who, not my forte, but he gave, on that last gasp effort, he put everything he had out there. And just very, very cool for a Gamecock to have that moment.
There's some strategy to the running. Like, did y'all watch the 1500?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was awesome too. Cole Hawker. There we go.
He put on the jets in the last little stretch there,
He
too.
was like running in, I don't know, 6th or so, and then started making his move. And then, he put on the jets at the end and beat out everybody. But, even in I was watching some of the 400 hurdles last night. There's always
like Chris is a track professional, so he can speak to this.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that, but I did run track a little bit in high school, and I like watching. But there's a little bit of strategy. It's not just like run fast, run as fast as you can.
Sure.
Because like you said, Wes, in the 400, you've got your max effort, you got your near max effort. There's strategy to it. If you completely spend yourself in the first 200, 300 and have nothing left, you're going to get passed. The interesting thing about the Quincy Hall race is he's a guy that can sometimes make it look easy. He looked cooked with 100 left, maybe even less, and he's got the grimace. He looks like he's losing ground. And then all of a sudden it's like, nope. It's like this switch just flipped. And he is just, his strides, he started long striding it. Strides are already long. And how many people did he pass? 4 or 5?
I think he was in 4th or 5th coming out of the curve. And it's he just found that extra gear for that last 100 meters and finished it off.
Yeah, that was amazing. Kudos to him. Big time performance.
And, look, Gamecock track already has a lot of, has a good reputation, but you add that to it, that's just even more impressive that, one of the former Gamecock being able to do that on the Olympic stage. And who knows, that could be Nick Harbor in a couple of years.
Could be, man. Could be. And, just a special moment there, I'm sure, for him and everybody involved. And it's always cool. You're on such a big stage. I saw the SEC account was getting in on congratulating him, and just a very, very special moment for everybody.
By the way, Asia Wilson and the women dominating once again yesterday against Nigeria. 59-game winning streak in Olympic play as they advance on to the semifinals in pursuit of yet another gold medal.
Who's up next?
Who is up next? That's a good question.
I don't know.
Will they be tested at all?
They've had some games that have been close-ish. It's one of those. It's always a situation where the other team's within range, which is 10 points or something.
It's kind of like South Carolina women's basketball this season.
You're they're being tested, even if it's kind of close. You always feel like they're in control of their own destiny. So it's realistically they're probably going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. And excited to see, hopefully, plenty more Gamecocks bringing home gold medals as the Olympics roll along. That'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Appreciate Patrick DeMarco for joining us for a couple of minutes there. Coming up next, it's going to be the halftime show with Terry Ford and Dimitri Ravenos as they roll along on your very wet and windy Thursday here in Columbia on 107.5 The Game.
All right, guys, before I get out of here, allow me to tell you about my friend Kendall Walsh over the team lead at the Dwell Columbia team at Better Home and Garden Real Estate Medley here in Columbia. If you're in the market to buy or sell a home or you want to invest in a property, give Kendall a call today, 803-414-3590. Or if you want to follow her on Instagram, that's at Work with Walsh. Again, on Instagram, at Work with Walsh. Do what I did. Contact Kendall if you're buying or selling. When me and my wife were in the market 2 years ago, we hit up Kendall. She walked us through every single step of the way. It was during football season. We were in the process of getting married. We had a lot going on and really could not focus on all the little details that have to do with buying a home. She took care of any and all of them efficiently and just perfectly, actually. So do what we did. Call Kendall, 803-414-3590 if you're buying, selling, or investing in homes here in the Midlands.
Halftime show. Terry Ford hanging out with you along with my buddy Dimitri Ravenos. Do this up until 3 o'clock. You ready to roll there, friend? He's not there yet? Okay, we're going to get Dimitri in here in just a minute. Have him hang out with us till 3 o'clock. Ed Bird is efforting. So is Tyler. We'll get Dimitri in here, and we'll get him rolling. As Olympics are going on, obviously a big day for South Carolina. A gold medal in the 400, which was quite the race, by the way. Quite the race. Quincy Hall at Carolina with 2019 and 20. Wins the 400 meters. Before the race, they talked about him kind of being a dark horse, but he wasn't even the focus on the American side. And at the end of the race, it's funny, the woman who was doing the analysis was saying Quincy's running out of gas because it looked like his face, it looked like it looked like, to be fair, he was running out of gas if you looked at his face. Then all of a sudden, Quincy kicked in the extra gear, and he wins the 400. And South Carolina,
you there, buddy?
Will get another medal once the women's basketball squad wins. And I know Dimitri glued to his TV for the 400 because you ran the 400 back in the day, right? You're us. Mm-hmm. Well, like the 400's the worst because you are sprinting the one lap. You're sprinting one lap. I mean, from the minute the gun goes off, you're flying like you're being chased by the cops, or maybe me being chased by the cops. But you are flying. It's the worst. It's the worst of all the sprinting events to me is having to run one lap around a track as fast as humanly possible. It always comes back to this, and you hit it. We've got analytics and technology and all this stuff with all these sports and all this fancy information and all this state of the art, this and that, and we still like to see who can run the fastest. We just do. That's us. Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny because we all would love to run as fast as Usain Bolt, right? I mean, we'd all love to do it. And I think that's part of this. When you're watching people run incredibly fast, you're like, wow, I'd like to be that fast. You know, I would love to be that fast. And so I remember, because back in the younger version of me, I ran the 50 and the 100. Yeah, well, obviously I was so good at it, I'm sitting here talking to you. But one of the funniest things is when you go to run that stuff, because when you're running that stuff for whoever you're running it for, you think you're, okay, I'm a certain level of fast, right? But when you run into the really fast, The worst thing in life, Dimitri, is when you go, I ain't that bleeping fast. Oh, my God. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And when you realize you're not one of them, you know, when you find out I'm not superhuman, I'm just okay for a regular dude, you're like, oh, I'm now bummed out. Okay, switch career path. I'm not going to be an Olympian. Okay, and speaking of Curtis Fry, my friend, you did nice work. Nice work by you. Yeah, and of course, Coach Fry, working with the Olympic team back in the day, has won national championships. He knows what's up, so we can get him talking with us about all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And the other part of it, it's not like Asia Wilson is going to win a gold medal playing for the women because they just stomp the hell out of everybody, right? That's happening. The other teams, yes. The women on that team are like grandmothers now, and they're still not losing games. Run that through your head. That's the best stat of all. Quincy was 6 years away from being born when the last time the U.S. women lost a basketball game in the Olympics. I mean, I had it on. It was the Brazil game, and it was a 14-point swing. You never felt Brazil had a chance. You thought Brazil could put 10 women on the court, and they still wouldn't have a chance. No, the women played Nigeria. Yeah, that's it. And you just were like, they have no chance. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? To your point about the dream team, I said this the other day. We have to stop trying to compare every Olympic team to the dream team. We got to stop it. It was a perfect storm of all those iconic players. We're finally saying, okay, the college kids are now getting the snot beat out of them. We got to send the A squad in. The JV has got to back up. Let's send the varsity, and they went in there and just scorched earth for 2 weeks, right? But now the world, and you hit it, the world is so much better at hoop. I mean, look at the MVPs in the NBA. I mean, some people can't pronounce their names. And it's a different world. The globe is so much better at basketball now. That dream team thing is not going to happen again in that fashion. We've just got to stop it and just focus on what we got. Right. Yep, France and Canada. Eventually, the others will start catching them. It's just a matter of time. But yeah, the men, look, they'll win. But it's not going to be, it was Angola, by the way. I think the Angolans were looking for autographs. Put it this way. Today, when Serbia and the U.S. play, the Serbians aren't standing. Nikola Jokic isn't going, man, I want that LeBron James autograph. No, Nikola Jokic's been an MVP in the NBA. I love Jokic. After they won the NBA title, Nicole, let's talk about the title. No, I got to go brush my horses. I love to do this with you. I know. All right. We're going to get back in here. We'll continue our conversation. Dimitri has an interesting question about the Olympics. We like it. We watch it. Is this because we're becoming old farts? We're going to get into that coming up because it's a very interesting question. Terry Ford, Dimitri Ravenos hanging with us. Ed Bird's here, too. It's a halftime show till 3 here on The Game.
I can, but Jerry can't. Will do, buddy. I'm doing good for a young guy. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Dimitri, can you send me a copy of that updated rundown sheet? Apparently, I've got one of the older ones. Okay, I got it now. So I called Curtis at 8:30. I did not get the audio for Mokaba. Hour sheets. Yeah, I don't see the audio.
Hanging in halftime show. Terry Ford, Dimitri Ravenos from his. Man, you look all. Look at you. Because I'm telling you, look at man. You. Man, you're in a recliner. You've got like you got somebody feeding you grapes and rubbing your feet. I mean, me either. So we got something in common. It's very good. All right. That's right. Hey, they say in case of any kind of high winds, it's good not to be wearing pants. And the pants just restrict you as you're running away from the wind. All right. So we're talking about the Olympics. And again, Quincy Hall winning the 400, ran at South Carolina. And we will have Coach Charlie Frye, Quincy's coach at South Carolina, from Paris, bottom of the hour here on the halftime show. But, you brought up an interesting question to me about what is it, if we're watching the Olympics, does that just mean we're getting old? Nope. Mm-hmm. Yep. Right. Righty, if you were listening to Snoop Dogg, you were obviously smoking dope and God knows what else you were doing, right? You're Yes. Dude, he's sharing food with Martha Stewart. Think about that for a minute. It's not Snoop. Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. And that's what it is. It just means that, guess what? Those people on stage are old like us now. It's not hip. Because, like, I'll give you an example. You want to get checked. My youngest is 17. And when he looks at, like, Snoop or any of the 90s, early new millennium, late 80s, whatever, he looks at it like we would look at Elvis. Think about that. How pathetic is that for us? Think about that for a minute. Yeah, I mean, we're old. I mean, like I remember when I was a little kid when Elvis died, right? I was a little kid. And all I remember is a little kid watching all these women crying on porches. And I'm like, and that's when Elvis was fat and he's doing Vegas, right? And he's doing the fake karate moves and he's got the sequence on and all that other I'm like, they're crying over that guy? And I'm like a little kid going, you're crying over the fat dude? I mean, what are we doing? But that's like now with us, with the things we loved, and now our kids are going, that's old fart stuff, guys. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Oh, wow. Right. Right. Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. Nice. Dude, that's the sad part too, Dimitri, is when you see this. Oh, you were born after the year 2000? Oh, really? Oh, I know. Katie Ledecky, because she showed up I think she showed up in Beijing. I mean, she's like, Katie Ledecky is under 30. And we think Katie Ledecky's been around forever. Oh, sure. You know, and both of them look just like B. Arthur and Estelle Getty. Yeah, we don't want to disrespect Rue and Betty White. Right. How are you, old fogey? What are you doing there, Grandma? Yeah, it's funny. Well, you also remember tennis, women's tennis. It's like it felt like once you hit 20, it was like that band Menudo. They kicked you out of women's tennis once you turned 20, right? It was crazy. Monica Seles got stabbed. Yeah. Capriati remember, she got arrested for weed. Remember, she had the mug shot. Yes. Yes. It was all these teenagers running around women's tennis at the time. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, we're going to come back here. Charlie Fry, former track coach here at South Carolina, the track coach for Quincy Hall in Paris. We're going to talk to Coach Fry about Quincy Hall and his journey to become an Olympic champion. That's next. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Dimitri Ravenos, and our buddy Ed Bird at the controls right here on the Halftime Show on the Game.
I got Coach Fry. He said he's in the stadium now. Yes. And I found the macabre cut.
What we're talking about, Quincy Hall, 400-meter champion at the Olympics, ran at South Carolina and ran for head coach Curtis Fry, who is right now as we speak at the Olympics in Paris. Coach, we appreciate you jumping in. Where are you at right now in Paris?
Hey, I'm sitting in the stadium, getting ready for finals and some other events tonight. The USA is having a great meet, and it looks like we're in a war between us and China on who gets the most gold medals. We won the last Olympic by one gold medal. So if the listeners out there, Quincy put us ahead last night. You got a big point there, because we had a current athlete that was running for Morocco, and he had his best performance in the 1,500 meters, and he finished 13th and didn't make the finals. Anas Aziz. And so my heart was beating the whole time. He was in a race with two Americans. I'm pulling for the two Americans to make the final, but they were taking sixth, and Anas was in fifth. And he got past the line, and it just all night long I was in kind of a low, because man, I pulled for the Gamecocks no matter what country. And then we had Aaliyah Abrams. She ended up 14th and didn't make it back to finals, and she's from Guyana. And then we had the shot put from Ireland, and so there's quite a few kids here that are I call them family. And then we got two ladies that are getting their medals upgraded because of the Russian girls tested positive 12 years ago. So tomorrow I go to Lucinda Demas' awards for the medal there. So it's representing the Gamecocks is big. Gamecock community and family is just hitting it up. They're so proud that we got a gold medalist in the 400 meters, the 100 meters, the 400 meters, and the mile. Are the three events, even my grandmother understood those events.
Former South Carolina track coach Curtis Fry with us, of course. Quincy Hall, who was coached by Coach Fry, winning the 400 meters last night at the Olympic Games in Paris. Okay, so take us through what's running through Curtis Fry's mind as he watches Quincy Hall run that 400, especially the end where the analysis on TV was Quincy's running out of gas, and then all of a sudden Quincy was shot out of a cannon and wins a gold medal. Give us what was going through your head as you watched the 400 last night with Quincy.
Well, the way Quincy is a 400-meter hurdler, so when we coached him, he won the NC2As in the 400 meters. And always at the NC2As, he ran people down to win the gold medal at the NC2A in the hurdles. Quincy, as a young kid, ran the 800 meters in the AAUs from an 8-year-old to a 12-year-old, and he was champion and held the record. And his high school coach started running him in the hurdles, and then he would run the mile relay. So when we got Quincy, I knew Quincy from the time he was very young. I placed him in junior college. I made sure that we got him back. One of our, John Hemmer, who was a great player and track athlete at Carolina, kept me aware of Quincy out there in Missouri, Kansas. And so when we got Quincy, his mother made sure she wanted him to be in a church family environment, and he came to me, and he was a guy that can finish any workout. The longer the workout, the stronger he gets. He's not a guy that goes fast. He gets hurt running speed work, but endurance speed, there's nobody. So there's nobody in the world can finish the last 200 in 22 seconds or finish the last 100 under 12 seconds. So if you look, one guy finished 11.8 and Quincy finished in 11.5. The rest of those guys, all along, we know by timing them that they can't run but 12 seconds. So I panicked a little bit sitting in this, watching him at the USA House last night because I didn't come to the stadium. And I knew he was going to get to the medal. He was favored to me to win, but he made me panic because he took it too easy. And I didn't know. But he always say, Coach, don't worry, the dog's going to come out in me. And sure enough, he forgets about mechanics, and he goes back to St. Louis in the streets like a little boy and just goes to wailing his arms, and he just lets the dog come out in it. He's got more grit and fight than any athlete I've ever coached. Well, the big thing, Quincy runs a workout that has 5 200s in it, and each one is a regression. It descends in order, and you reduce the rest. So he's been practicing at running 23 seconds and getting closer to 22 seconds with only 2-minute rest in between. That's a Michael Johnson workout. And so when you know that you can run 23 on the fifth one, you know that nobody can break 23. So your goal is to be in good enough shape that the rest are dying, and you are not dying. It looks like you're speeding up, but where your goal is to not be dying. So he knows that he can run 22.9, 22.8, and the rest of them can't run but 23.3 and such. So if he stays close enough, they'll decelerate, and he will still be able to maintain the momentum that he's bringing home. So he doesn't panic. The coach panics, but Quince don't panic. One time we were in Florida, and he said he was hurt, and I said, well, next man up. And our next man up was not very good. So I was putting 3 athletes out on the field. Quincy was in his jeans. And he said, I can't let my boys, they come running to me, Coach, I've got to run. I can't let the boys down. I said, you hurt. You can't run. And so I went to the stands to time it. And I looked, and he had jumped over the fence. He had taken off his jeans, and he had checked in, and he ran 43 seconds on the relay for us to run down everybody that was at that kind of, as he calls it, that's the dog in him. Even if he's hurt, he calls the dog out, and the dog goes. I saw last night his family had a watch party, and his brothers was doing all this barking about that's the dog from our neighborhood. And Quincy is representing everybody. He and I used to argue and fight about gold teeth. I'd make him take his teeth off and make him wear a necktie to get on their airplane to fly. And we just stayed. Hey, I just stayed at it. But then he would go to church with me at New Ebenezer, and he wouldn't wear his teeth, and he would wear a necktie. So he has the quality as a super character. When he's upset with me and I'm upset, he doesn't apologize. He cooks brisket, and he brings brisket to my house, and he doesn't say, Coach, I'm sorry I didn't wear my necktie. He just, I got some brisket. I got a roasted chicken for you, Coach. And that's apology for him. And so he called me last night and said, we're gonna eat some brisket when we get back to Columbia. And hey, and I told him I'm gonna find a sponsor for him in Columbia because the business community needs somebody that's got grit.
Coach Curtis Fry, former South Carolina track coach in Paris at the Olympics, where his guy, Quincy Hall, wins the 400 meters last night. Coach, thank you for jumping on with us. We really appreciate it. Have fun. Enjoy yourself, okay? Thank you.
Hey, guys, thank you for supporting the Gamecocks. Oh my God! In this meet right here, you got 68 track Olympians that come from the SEC. And when you talk about the world's greatest athletes, the Olympics were started based on all the sports came from Athens, Greece. They come from the track and field community. They call it athletics. That's why in Europe you see the stadium. Right here in this town, there's only 12 million people in Paris. Well, there are 14 million people attending Olympics. We're going to be in L.A. in 28. If you have on your bucket list, if you haven't seen Olympic events, and you're a sports fan, it's a lifetime loss. Buddy Pugh from South Carolina State retired football. He and his wife are traveling with us, and he's sitting here in the stands with me, and he's at awe at these athletes and the things that they're accomplishing, and he just can't believe it. And so so it's something that the president of South Carolina State, we ran into his wife. Their daughter goes to UCLA, and her boyfriend is at Stanford. The brightest, the smartest, the fastest, the most committed athlete that don't get paid, that do it out of love, are kids like Biles and gymnastics, and they're starting to get sponsorship later in their lives. But basically, the love of sport is what the Olympics is, and sportsmanship. If you want to see somebody pick somebody up, you will see a champion go back and get somebody that fell down. It's an enormous thing. Tonight, a young man don't run the 200 meters named Knight. He's an adoptee that was a foster kid at 4 years old, and his story is a great story that people will learn to follow in the Olympics. So I'm just thinking that anybody that's in sport that can't enjoy the sports of track and field and the sports here. I went to boxing, ping pong. They're incredible feats of championships. Sand volleyball at another level. And so I think if you've ever been in sports and you want to plan something to get to another part of the world, go to another part of the world, see a safe environment of sport, the Olympics.
Coach Curtis Fry, we appreciate you, my man. Thanks a lot for jumping in with us, and hey, have fun at the Olympics. Hopefully you got more gold. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Dimitri Ravenos, and our buddy Ed Bird. We're rolling till 3 on the game.
Hey, Dimitri, looking ahead, are you still looking for that Chris Deering audio in the second segment of the 1 o'clock hour. Okay, just checking. Got it. I'll have it ready.
All right, halftime show. Terry Ford, Dimitri Ravenos hanging in with us, Ed Birds here. We'll grab a couple texts here in a little bit from the Firehouse sub-text line. But first of all, sir, you do a podcast thing about the... Now, are the Carolina Panthers still in the NFL? All right. Now... Yeah, they do, and a good job of making you pay money as part of your season ticket package to go to preseason games. Yeah, they do it, but you know what? Honestly, I don't care about the preseason anymore. Nobody get hurt. All I care about, because you know why? Coaches don't care about the preseason anymore. Well, you get to watch like the fifth string quarterback, and you get to watch like the long snapper battle. Right. He's hurt. Mm-hmm. He's going to play. He's playing tonight. Yes. Yeah, and you get to see the great Jack Plummer, or is it Jake Plummer? I don't know. It's just whatever. But this is what preseason is now, right? I mean, the work is done in these organized practices with other teams. That's where all the real work is done now. And the preseason game is just let's fill out the bottom of the roster. Yeah, and that's why eventually we'll have 1 or 2 preseason games and we'll have 18 regular season games because it's all about player safety, Dimitri. Keep the players safe. Exactly. We got to keep the players safe so we can't get sued. I mean, because we care about the players' safety. That's what he meant to say. Football coming up here on the game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Dimitri Ravenos hanging out with us. Ed Bird's here to make sure we don't do anything wrong and get fined by the FCC. We are rolling football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. And we are starting with some football. It's a disturbing football, Dimitri. Right. Mm-hmm. Huh? Well, we'll start with, I'm guessing that this coach is successful. They got a good one-loss record, right? I mean, because that's when you defend this ridiculousness, right? Because people get sideways about winning, and when you win, you got to dry hump a kid to win. I mean, my God, I mean, it's just it's so ridiculous, and look, and I always say when I see this stuff, and look, we can say we want a high school kid is still that's high school, but you're a kid, you're under the age of 18 mostly. And you're a kid. And the first thing when I see this kind of stuff, because my kid plays high school sports, if a coach does that to my kid, hey, Dimitri, what's up, Tara? Can I borrow some bail money? Mm-hmm. Maybe, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, look, everything in life evolves, correct? We're supposed to be learning things and getting smarter. Like, most people don't have a wall phone anymore, right? Right? Most people don't have a Rand McNally map sitting in the front seat of the car to get them around. But there's some things we don't want to let evolve. Like, I played football. When I was playing rec football as a kid, and I've told the story on the air here, I had Coach Jerry. Dude, I mean, he looked like Encino Man, right? I mean, he showed up, had a cast on his arm, and we were like, gee, Coach Jerry, what's that for? To beat you little bleepers if you don't listen. I mean, I've said this, Dimitri. I'm a grown man with kids. If I saw Coach Jerry in a room with me, I would probably soil myself and go hide under a table. I think that the other part of this, to me, is just thinking back to when you were that age. And as you get older, what you thought might have been, you think back going, well, I didn't really want you to grab me by the face mask and twist my head around till my neck snapped. I just wanted you to tell me what I did wrong and help me get better at it. I didn't need you to pick me up and throw me into a dumpster. Mm-hmm. Here's Mo Kaba. It's going to happen, Dimitri, I promise. And remember this, the thing about this sport, and look, I get tough coaching, and I get accountability, and I get sometimes you're going to have different players are motivated in different ways, and some guys you got to get in their grill, and some guys you got to give them a hug. I understand all of it. But what about ripping off a guy's headgear and then, simulating dry humping makes you a better player? What does this do? Like at University of Maryland, what happened, there in the last so many years where dumbbells are being thrown at players. What is that? How does that make you a better player? You're walking with your food on a tray and a coach walks up and knocks it out of your hand. How does that make you a better player? The word is it doesn't. You are being coached by intimidation and bullying. And at some point, you have to actually coach somebody. And even I'll say this too about this kind of thing. Let's go back to a guy that might be the dictionary definition of hard guy, like a Bobby Knight. Read the book Season on the Brink. Some of it will make you cringe. But then there's a guy named Landon Turner on his team when they won a championship who was paralyzed in a car accident. You know who sat by his bed holding his hand? Bobby Knight. Mike Krzyzewski's mom was sick. You know who went with Mike Krzyzewski back to Krzyzewski's house to help take care of his mom? Bobby Knight. These guys who want to be hardcore, no, you have to be human at some point with your players. You have to show players love and respect at some point, because if you don't, they're going to tune you out and you're not going to get your message across and you're going to lose your job and you're not going to coach anymore. There is a finesse to even being a hard-boiled coach that some of these guys don't understand, because all they're watching is stupid video clips of something. They don't really understand. There are many layers to being even a hard, old-school coach, right, Dimitri? You have to show players love and have to show you care about them. And if you don't, you don't belong in the business. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, and the one thing you always hear, and don't get me wrong, when Shane's going to have to yell, Shane yells, but one thing you hear about all these players say about coming to play for Shane Beamer at South Carolina is the feeling of family, and this coaching staff cares about you as a person more than a football player. And look, it's called human nature, Dimitri. You know, if you show me you care about me as a person, I'm going to buy in more to you as a coach because you're showing me I'm not just out here to get you wins and losses and more money for your bank account. That's right. I mean, that's the thing. It's like you have to care about people, right? Because it's like me. If people have cared about me that I've worked for in my life, that means something. It matters than just that. And you've worked for these people too that, they said, hey, Timmy, get the hell in here. Terry, yeah, Tommy, come here a minute. And then that's right. Oh, absolutely. And I always love that. Oh, wow, I just got fired from my family. Oh, this is great. My family just fired me. Fantastic. Dimitri Ravenos hanging out with us. Terry Ford's halftime show. Ed Bird's here. He's rolling the show to make sure we don't do anything stupid. All right, football. What we got next? I don't have the rundown in front of me. My screen went blanked. Oh. We love Mike Felder. That's next here on the halftime show. Football. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the game.
Michael's on the line.
Football in the 1 o'clock hour on the game, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Who better talk football with? Hand in the Dirt podcast from the stadium. Our good buddy talking some college football, Michael Felder. Michael, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. How are you guys doing? You got to get underneath them, honestly. And you know what? You want me to be honest? If you play by the rules, you're not going to win. He's going to beat you every time. Every single time he can beat you, especially because of that size. What is he, like 235 pounds, 240 pounds? He's a huge man. This guy's 6'5", 235 pounds. There's nothing you can really do. Especially if you're like me, you're 5'10", 5'11", and you weigh, 205 pounds. But here's what I would do personally, because we're talking wide receiver versus DB. DB's got some tricks. And first thing, jump jam. You flash hands, put those hands back down. He's going to go into his swim move or his routine, and then you put hands back on him. That's going to give you a win because you're going to disrupt the timing. The timing gets disrupted. Now all of a sudden, you don't have to worry about the biggest goal is to make sure he's not a target. Because once he becomes a target, now he becomes an asset. And once he's a target or someone that the quarterback can throw the football to, now you have a problem. So, I'm going step by step. I'm looking at jump jam. Jump jam, absolutely. Like this is before we could talk about bracketing or anything. A jump jam or a flash jam where you flash your hands up, he goes into his swim so he can avoid you, and then you get hands on him. And even if he runs you over, the reality of it is you pull him down with you, guess what? He's out of the route. Now he's got to throw the ball to somebody else. The second thing And this is, look, I'm going to get deep football on you right now. There are 3 ways that a guy that big, that fast, the only 3 ways you can cover them if you're not as fast, not as big. One is you grab their wrist when they're running up the field, and then you make them run at your pace. And for people that don't know this, when you're running, your arms are a huge part of running. So you have to grab their wrist, and you run with them, or excuse me, you make them run with you. So there's that. There's also running with your hands straight down. And so they never get a full leg extension on. If they're running up the right side of the field, their left leg never gets a full leg extension. You hold it down. That makes them slower. So on the other side of the field, your left hand is on their right leg. They don't get full extension, so it slows them down. And then the other thing is, and this is bad, I don't know if I hit them in the groin.
Jeez. Hey, that's right. If all else fails,
it's
pop
when
them in the
you're.
groin.
What I'm saying is when you're running and your arms are going up and down, one of those goes straight right between his legs, and guess what? It's harder to run that way. We're all men. We know what it is. It's hard. It's hard to run like that. So what happens, here's what's happened, and this is the only reason that I got a lot of respect when I was at UNC was because I knew all this stuff. But the only reason I knew all this stuff was because I got to play football in college because I had to use every trick in the book to be good. Most of these guys, the guys that are going to play at South Carolina, the guys that are going to play at Tennessee, at Florida, they were just good enough. So it takes them more time to learn little things because they've never had to use those things. And so even when I'm playing against Jesse Holley, who ended up playing for the Cowboys, he had never seen someone flash jam before because everyone that he played against and everyone that was good enough to guard him could just guard him. Like no one from Miami. When we beat Miami in 2004, Devin Hester wasn't flash jamming people. So it's like this combination of, hey, I'm not that good, but I'm close enough. And I think it's very interesting to watch guys like NFL guys like realize that there's little tricks that you can do, but it takes them long because they've been so good for so long that they never had to, basically, and we'll call it what it is. They didn't have to cheat.
Michael Felder hanging out with us here on the Dirt Podcast and from the stadium. All right, Michael, so you see Nick Harbor, freakish athlete. He's, he's weighs like an edge pass rusher, Olympic type speed, but as a wide receiver, he's a work in progress. He's very raw.
Yes.
As a guy that played DB, played corner, let's get away from the physical skills here for a second and talk about the technician or the technical part of playing the position of wide receiver. What's the one thing Nick Harbor has to get better at if he wants to make that jump, besides obviously catching the ball when you throw it to him? What does he have to do technically? What is the thing to make the jump from freakish athlete to freakish wide receiving threat?
I think probably, I don't know if throttling is the right word, but I also like getting in and out of breaks. Like, can't be tight. You got to get in and out of these breaks. Like, it's one thing, obviously, he's so big, he has this amazing advantage. But getting in and out of breaks is so important. Getting in and out of breaks is so, every route can't be a go, right? Every route can't be just, like, a jump ball. There's sometimes where you want to create space. And if I was him, you know who I'd be watching is Anquan Bolden.
Interesting.
Anquan Bolden, who is not, obviously they're not the same size. He's bigger than Anquan. But Anquan was a guy that or Andre Johnson, the guy from Miami that ended up playing for the Texans. I'd watch Andre Johnson. Andre Johnson and Anquan Bolden would be my two go-tos if I was him. They figured out how to throttle down, control their body, and they also found a way, and this is the thing I noticed when I watch Harbor, there's not a lot after the catch, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is just he creates, and that's great for first downs. But that's also what tight ends do. Tight ends do that. Like, even on screens, like there's times on screens where he gets caught like at the line or right behind the line or, a couple yards in front of the line. And I would watch Bolden and I would watch Andre Johnson, two guys that were bigger receivers, like of their era, and found ways to create space and find opportunity, but then also find opportunity past the just making the catch. The catch is great. The catch is the first thing you have to do. You have to, in the words of the kids these days, you have to secure the bag. But if you can take the bag to the bank, all of a sudden you raise your value. So yeah, I would. That's what I'm looking at when I watch him. I see a guy who absolutely he can 50-50 balls, no problem. Creating small separation to get a first down, no problem. But these are also things that I would say about a tight end. What I want is that next step, right? I want the next thing. I want you to turn a negative 2-yard pass into a 50-yard gain. I want you to turn a 12-yard pass into a 75-yard gain. I want you to turn this 8-yard ball that, yes, listen, it's 3rd and 6, and you caught it at 8. Awesome. The next step is figuring out how to turn that into a 36-yard gain, and that's what I'm looking for him. Yeah.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you guys so much. I'll take it easy.
I appreciate it. We'll get back in here. More football in the 1 o'clock hour. Again, my rundown is blank on my laptop. What are we doing next, Dimitri? All right, halftime show. Terry Ford, Dimitri Ravenos, and our buddy Ed Bird going till 3 on the game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach. Men's Clinic of South Carolina, 803-875-MENS. We keep saying it because you got to go. If you're it's what happens. We're getting older. Just don't have the life drive you used to have in everything, every room, the yard. You just don't feel right. You don't have that energy, that kick. You're not sleeping like you used to. Your workouts stink. Your recovery from workout stinks more than your workout. You don't sleep like you used to. You can't remember what you used to remember. I can't remember what I got to say now. I should go to the men's clinic. 803-875-MENS. You call. You set up a free confidential consultation with Dr. Dan and the staff. Tell them your story. If they think it could be low T, they'll do some lab work. If it is low testosterone, they'll put you on a personalized program to make you back to being you again. Men's Clinic of South Carolina, 803-875-MENS.
Hey, bud, for your notes, Coach Fry's interview is 9 minutes and 35 seconds.
Oh, what we're talking about is football, and lots of football, specifically Nick Harbor is who we're talking about here on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Dimitri Ravenos hanging out with us today. Ed Bird is here steering the ship. Okay, so Dimitri, you brought up an interesting little a topic point. Because we look at Nick Harbor, and you see this, again, Bruce Feldman, only guy in back-to-back years ever to be number one on the freak list. Physically, it's like, okay, you're as big as a pass rusher, and you run like Usain Bolt. And now you're a wide receiver with a ton of potential, but you're also very raw, right? And you brought up the idea, maybe, just maybe this year, because of the rawness of Nick Harbor, and you look at the veterans in the wide receiver room that have been brought in out of the portal and some of these other pieces, and the way this offense could be designed, could it be a better offense if you don't have this freakish athlete on the field? Yeah. And you know what? Look, Nick Harbor with the freak list, and I know that in the video game that there's all this stuff about Nick Harbor too. And I almost feel like it's unfair to Nick Harbor. I really do. I mean, here's a guy again. Because we automatically think, well, if you run faster than everybody, and we joke about it here. Hey, Nick, run real fast down the field and we'll throw the ball up to you. Like, that's the easy thing to do, and it's going to work every time. But I think all of this is just building this expectation level for Nick Harbor. Hopefully he reaches these expectations. But again, here's a guy, Dimitri, who's played wide receiver one more year than you and I. And now we're heaping all this, wow, freak list, wow, video game. And look, I hope it works out the way everybody is kind of leading it to go. But he's still a work in progress. Well, and the idea of what does he do, to your point, what does he do well right now? Okay, we're always talking about what he can't do yet because we figure, the little refinements of being a wide receiver he's still working on. But what can he do? We know he can run fast, right? We know he can run fast, and he's a big dude. So let's take what he can do right now, and let's incorporate all that while we're working on the things he can't do, to your point. And what those things are, I think, is how you mold him in this offense to get the most productivity out of him. Mm-hmm. Well, I know we all love the passing game. It's fun to watch. You score a lot of points. The highlights are cool. But I say this today. I always do. At some point in a football game, if you're going to win the football game, most of the time, not every time, maybe see a boat race people, like by 30 or 40, 50 in college football, and you give them a check and go, thanks for showing up, get on your bus. But if you're playing a team that's even an ability with you in some way, shape, or form, at some point you're going to turn around and give the ball to a running back. You just have to. And the other part is, to the texter's point, Nick Harbor was brought in as a 5-star player. Really, he was brought in as a 5-star athlete. Let's be honest. He was a edge pass rusher in high school and a tight end. But he was really brought in as, this guy athletically is a 5-star something, right? And a lot of times 5-stars are brought, like Jadeveon Clowney was a 50-star, right? But you knew what he was doing. He was going to line up. Yes, he was a freakish athlete, but he was a freakish pass rusher. Right, and so you knew where that was going. Most of the time we see 5-star kids, Dimitri, they're 5-star, what position? And here, to the texter's point, Nick Harbor was really a 5-star dude who you're going to figure out where you were going to play him. Yeah, because now you got to take this 5-star, unbelievably freak athlete and go, now we got to make him a freak football player. Yeah, and you have a right, and you have a quarterback who can use his legs to make plays. The running game is going to really be front and center, especially early this year with this football team, as Lenore Sellers develops as an all-around quarterback. And so, to your point, They hadn't seen a lot of running the football here the last couple of years because, again, Spencer Rattler wasn't Michael Vick. I mean, he's got great arm talent, but Spencer Rattler wasn't, reeling off 30-yard runs. Now you're going to see a team that's going to run the football a lot more than you're used to here recently. Firehouse Subtext the Hour coming up next at 803-404-6100. Halftime show on the game.
Yeah, it's almost out of here. About another 4 or 5 hours.
All right, get our Firehouse sub text of the hour here at 803-404-6100. Terry Ford, Dimitri Ravenos hanging out with us today. Ed Bird's here. What do you got on the old Firehouse sub text line, Dimitri? And it could be something where you got a kid that big and that strong, he can help you in the run game. Yes. Yeah, because, Ed Bird's right on the button. He's right on the button. Ed isn't playing around. But, yeah, that's the thing about it. I mean, because, again, the casual fan hears about this kid, and he's a five-star kid, and he's really fast, and he's got Olympic speed, but he's, he's built like a linebacker and all these things. And you automatically think, well, this kid's going to go on the field and tear it up. And it's just not that simple. And then when he's not out there tearing it up, the casual fan's going to go, well, he's a bust. Yeah, and again, it's one of those things. It's not so cut and dry with Harbor that it would be with other players who come in with that kind of rep. It's not the same. It just isn't. Right. Right, absolutely. You got another one real quick before we jump into fun stuff? Sure, absolutely. Oh, mm-hmm. I know. Yes, absolutely. Calvin Johnson, one of the great SEC wide receivers of all time. Yeah. We were kidding about this yesterday. Mike Gillespie and I is like, we're going to look back on that great ACC matchup between Stanford and Cal when the band came out, the Stanford band. What a great ACC moment. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the ACC can also do this and bring Eric Dickerson and Craig James in. The great ACC tandem at running back they were for those iconic ACC powerhouse teams at SMU. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. We'll get it next. Hold that thought. Coming up from Dimitri, halftime show. Halftime show, What's Trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry here on the game. This hour, we'll have a couple of shots for you to win tickets to go see Hank Jr. tomorrow night. So that's coming up here. Be listening between now and 3 o'clock. Couple pair of tickets to go check out Hank Jr. in a concert. It's coming up this hour here on the game. What's Trending at 2 again? We got Dimitri Ravenos in here, Ed Bird's here. All right, so you had a thought that I stopped you from thinking because we had this thing called, I don't know, a music bed that was about to end and go into commercials. So right. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, when that first popped, and that was when 2010, 2011 is when everybody first talking about there's going to be super leagues, going to be these just like 24-team super leagues or however they were configuring it. And we're going to the have and the have-nots. And I'm not talking about group of five and power conference. I'm talking about within the power conferences. You know, you've put it this way, that bottom level of the power conferences don't automatically feel like you're safe. Does that make sense? And the thing about it, what I always say to people, like when they talk about, like we always have these conversations like about Clemson, Florida State. This isn't about your one-loss record. And that drives people crazy. It's not about your one-loss record. It's so many other things. Right. Florida, right. And the thing about, and that's why when people will, a lot of college football fans, I mean, they want to throw up in their mouth when you bring up the value of North Carolina. But it's not about, look, most fans, and you're in the state of North Carolina. Most fans in Chapel Hill, football is something to do to kill time till basketball season. They're not, in the SEC. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Yeah, and it's a national brand thanks to basketball. But in the context of what it brings all together, because Chapel, the Triangle is is the most growing area in the country. North Carolina, the state, is the most growing state in the country. Like my family from North Carolina says to me, "You Yankees are killing North Carolina. Get the hell out." It's the idea that what North Carolina brings in so many boxes it checks is so valuable outside of what they do on a football field. Yes. And that's the thing. And what's interesting about it, Dimitri, is places like Starkville and Oxford who wouldn't make a ripple in what we're talking about today, right? But they today nobody wants Oxford, Mississippi, or Starkville, Mississippi in this world we're living in that's run by TV networks. But what those places do is kind of brings you what the fabric of the SEC is, right? Little small towns that, again, don't make a blip in market size or all these other things, but all the passion and like the specialness of walking around the Grove or those irritating cowbells or any of that stuff. Those are the kind of things that make that fabric of the SEC that makes college athletics. But here's what we're doing. We are running those things out because of markets and brands and eyeballs and all these other things that matter today in the big money world of college athletics. And plus, your wife's already said that 2 or 3 times today. Oh, those things to me are, if you're not a fan, if you're not a Mississippi State fan, or if you're not in Starkville or whatever, you hate those things. Let's just be honest. It's annoying. It's like that guy at the Vanderbilt baseball games who sits in the stands and annoys everybody. Of course. Shake. Hey, give him credit for shaking the key. Well, it's not a cowbell, but hey, why not? Let's shake keys. So let me ask you a question. What do you feel about these cowbells? Oh, man. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry. Obviously, we talked about what happened last night, Quincy Hall winning the 400 meters. We talked to Curtis Fry. We're going to re-rack that up here in case you missed it, hear from the former South Carolina track coach. We'll do that in the next segment and let you hear from Curtis. Talking to him, what'd you take from that? Well, Curtis Fry I remember we had him 2 years ago. We did a Gamecock Day, and we did our shows all from over at Ray Tanner's Suite, because Ray didn't know we had keys. No, anyway, we had Ray Tanner's Suite, and we brought in a bunch of different coaches, and Curtis Fry was one of them, and he sat down with us for a segment. We were like, man, you want to stay for an hour? This is fantastic. And I thought just kind of like the little insight of like his stories about, like Quincy's teeth. Yeah, it was so good. Right. I was going to say, I want to make Quincy mad so we can apologize and bring him some brisket and chicken. But it's just funny when you hear the insight of like how, Coach Fry dealt with like a Quincy Hall and how he was like, okay, Quincy, you got to wear the tie and take out the teeth. We go to church. And Quincy's like, okay, I'm with you, Coach. But then other ways, Quincy wouldn't do it. It's just when you hear that kind of passion and just the way they talk about how they go about their relationships with athletes, to your point of, again, track and field is not getting all the love that football and basketball is. And so you've got to have a way, to kind of bring the message, right? Like a Pied Piper, your message, to take and become not just successful, but also to get your resources, Dimitri, to be able to continue your success, because that's something that's not automatically given to you like it is football and basketball. And we're going to re-rack that at 2:30. 2:30, former South Carolina track coach Curtis Fry live from the stands in Paris. We're gonna re-rack that for you. We'll come back in here what's trending at 2. We'll talk about the transfer portal. South Carolina used it a ton. Let's take a look at what that means in the small and big picture. That's coming back. Terry Ford, Dimitri Ravenos, our buddy Ed Bird. We're rolling the halftime show till 3 here on the game. We always appreciate our friends at the Men's Clinic of South Carolina to continually put up with us and sponsor this little get-together every day. Terry Ford, Dimitri Ravenos is here. Ed Bird, halftime show in the game. Right now, give us a ring, 803-404-6100. 3 pair of Hank Williams Jr. tickets. It's tomorrow night at the Music Pavilion in Charlotte. You want to go see Hank Jr., 3 pair right now. We'll take callers number 5, 6, and 7. Make it easy. 803-404-6100 to go see Hank Jr. at the PNC Music Pavilion in Charlotte tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Hank takes the stage. Maybe sober, maybe not. We'll see. We shall see. I think he's kind of possibly got. Well, remember the old days. I remember people who went and saw Hank Jr. back when the height of Hank Jr. Right. Dude would come out, big bottle of whiskey sitting on the stage. He'd forget half the lyrics. He was just. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If you love him, you're like, look at him. He can't remember the words of the song. He's so cool. Mm-hmm. No, not at all. Right. It's interesting because, look, the reality, you know how this goes. When you get a guy in from the portal to your team, this is great, wonderful, awesome. What can you do to help us win? When you lose a guy and they leave the portal, we hate you, you're not loyal, what's wrong with you, whatever. That's the way it works. But I think, to me, I believe that it's like NIL. You might hate it. You might think it's awful. You might think it's the Satan of existence of college athletics. But it ain't going anywhere, and you got to learn how to use it. In the same way with the transfer portal. I think you have to understand that, look, not everybody's Alabama and Ohio State and Georgia, and you're recruiting at this high level every year, and, you can go, okay, I want that 5-star, that 5-star, that 5-star, that 5-star. What the portal does is not only does it give you a chance to, because it's still, you got to have that foundation of high school recruiting, right? You still have to have recruiting and development. That's always going to be the baseline. But what it does is the portal can, if you have a weakness, like South Carolina had a weakness at running back, go get it in the portal. Also, I think you get a chance to go get maybe that high-level 4-star kid that didn't come to you the first time. Maybe you get him on the second trip around. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, Ed Bird will grab that in a second. He's getting contest winners. Yeah, we'll come back and get it. Mm-hmm. And plus, not using the transfer portal, you're cutting off a talent pipeline. Why would you do that to yourself? It makes no sense. And to your point of bringing in players, Monkel Goodwine was a high-level recruit that Alabama picked up on the defensive line. Things didn't work out at Alabama. He's now transferred to South Carolina. This is a kid you couldn't get the first go-around because he goes to Bama. Now you're bringing in a player who was a top 70 recruit in America, and for whatever reason, he's now transferred. You get a second bite at the apple to bring in a high-level guy out of high school, whatever reason, because Alabama's got $7 billion of these guys, right? So, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. No. Yeah, I mean, Georgia brings in, kids from the portal. Obviously, Alabama's done it. We've seen it all over the place. It's just, again, a talent pipeline. Why would you not take advantage of a talent pipeline? Of course, Jamison Williams came in, had a great year at Alabama a couple years ago as a wide receiver. First round pick in the NFL draft, Ohio State transfer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the calendar in college football is just ridiculous. It has to be fixed. It's just, it's insane. I will get back. I mean, sometimes insanity's fun. Yeah, sure. That's right. That's right. It's always good with somebody else's issue, and it's not yours. I will get back in here. Curtis Fry, former South Carolina track coach in Paris, saw one of his former track athletes win a gold medal last night. We're going to re-rack that interview we had at 12:30. If you missed it, that Dimitri and I had with Coach Fry, that's coming up next here on the Halftime Show on The Game.
Revised time is now 9 minutes and 19 seconds. Wasn't sure if you heard me, Dimitri. Revised time is 9 minutes and 20 seconds. I'm sorry, say again. Not yet.
Halftime show. Terry Ford, Dimitri Ravenos hanging in here today. Ed Bird is also present and accountable and making sure that all the pots are turned up on the board so we can actually do radio. Coach Curtis Fry was with Dimitri and I at 12:30 live from Paris, talking with us about Quincy Hall's winning the 400 meters. Of course, Coach Fry coached up Quincy 2019-2020 at South Carolina. So we start off the interview, Dimitri and I, with just asking Coach Fry, you're in Paris. Where are you at right now in Paris? All right, there is former head coach Curtis Fry in South Carolina in Paris watching his guy, Quincy Hall, win the 400 last night at the Olympic Games. We'll come back. Firehouse Sub Text Hour 803-404-6100. Terry Ford, Dimitri Ravenos, Ed Bird. It's a halftime show on the game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Dimitri Ravenos is here. So is Ed Bird. A little Firehouse Sub Text Hour. Anything good on the old text line there, Dimitri? Right. Right. It's right. That's a song. Is there a cowbell song? Is there 3.5 minutes or 4 minutes of cowbell? Yeah. That's true. Right. Nobody went, dude, I love that song for the cowbell. Cowbell rocks. Man, I need a band that just forget guitars, just cowbell. Just keep. Yeah, but we appreciate the text, but no, Sandstorm. I'm not just saying this because we're sitting here in Columbia, South Carolina. Sandstorm much better than cowbells. Well, I'll say this. I mean, can I be real? How many people, when you were getting in a car and you were younger, said, dude, pop on that Gary Glitter CD? What? Well, it's funny because, like, and I think they brought it back again at Baltimore Oriole games because, you're winning again. So you bring back some cool stuff. And the seventh inning stretch, they do Thank God I'm a Country Boy from John Denver. Now, again, absolutely, lots of farms all over Baltimore, right? And everybody's breaking out their fiddle. But for some reason, it caught on, and they play Thank God I'm a Country Boy, the seventh inning. It was Old Memorial Stadium, now Camden Yards. Very few people in Baltimore are running out to the local record store downloading John Denver's greatest hits. I would never watch that. Of course, yes. I know. Isn't it funny how these bizarre songs, because, like, if you even went to Neil Diamond and would have said, Neil, list me the 10 songs that you're most proud of, I'm guessing Sweet Caroline's not on that list. Yes. Yeah, this guy is an iconic songwriter / artist. I'm guessing Sweet Caroline is not going to be on his list of the songs he's the most proud of. But it is funny how all of a sudden these songs become bar anthems or stadium anthems, and you're like, how? Oh, I know. Well, the other part is Renegade by Styx at the Steelers games. I skated to that at Skateland when I was like 8. Right. And you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, please no. Right? Please no. Don't do this. This is not one. Yeah. No, it's much better than clanka from the kid. Yeah, absolutely. Dimitri will do it again tomorrow. All right, post-game show with Jay and Elijah next. Ed Bird, fine work, my friend. Talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Dimitri. See you tomorrow.